Happy Halloween, boys and girls, and welcome to another edition of Going to Bed with Mike and Steve. I'm Mike.
Ooh, and I'm Steve.
And we are continuing to read the Goosebumps classic, Egg Monsters from Mars by R.L. Stine.
Bum, 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 bum.
Let's jump right into it, shall we? Listeners, beware. You're in for a scare. I can't believe it took me till chapter 14 to think...
to actually say that?
To
yeah,
actually
no, we didn't.
think of saying that.
We did not.
Not once. Wow.
And I'm scared.
Terrified. Chapter 14. The egg creature stared up at us. It quivered and bubbled against the side of the box. The bottom of the box was puddled with my sticky goo. So you found one, Dr. Gray murmured, tilting the box. The yellow blob slid to the other end. Found one, I replied. You mean you know what it is? I thought I rounded them all up, Dr. Dre. Oh, excuse me, right, it's Dr. Dre. I thought I rounded them all up, Dr. Dre replied, rubbing his mustache. He turned his pale blue eyes on me. But I guess I missed one. What is it? I demanded. What is it? I demanded. What kind of animal? What kind of animal is it? He shrugged. I don't know. He tilted the box the other way, making the egg creature slide to the other end.
Didn't like it, so I wanted to kill it.
Then he gently poked the eggy blob in the back. This is a young one, he said softly. A young what? I asked impatiently. Son, when a mommy and a daddy want to make a baby, the daddy puts his special bits into the mommy's special bits, and they rub them together until a sticky goo comes out. You understand? Now, I'm sure on the news you heard all about people who are afraid that pharmaceuticals that like a tetanus shot. What the hell do you call that? I'm leading up to a wonderfully political joke here. If I could, what's a flu shot? What is it called? People think they cause autism. I had a fabulous joke that I was leading up to. It was wonderful. Injections, what are they called? There's a term for them. You have to go and get your shots, you have to go and get your immunizations.
Immunization. I was like, flu shots,
Right? Okay, let's go back and pretend that I didn't just reveal... See, okay, where I was going with it was that, you know, so I'm sure you heard on the news that people are worried that the immunizations cause autism and other such mental disorders. Well, understand this, they don't do that, but a couple of them do cause it, so that when your special bits is rubbed and that special goo comes out, well, it kind of makes it chunky and yellow and kind of looking like eggs and alive. Those eggs were actually your own testicles that had grown to enormous proportions that definitely should not have. Now, Dr. Dre is turning a foghorn leghorn. I said, boy. The immunizations, boy, are causing your testicles to grow at an exponentially heightened rate, and to proportions that we just never seen before. Oh, look at yours, they green, and they are spewing what can only be described as egg monsters from Mars, because women are from Venus, men are from Mars. Okay, let's jump back into reading this. You all got my joke now. My joke, it was... A young what? I asked impatiently. Wait, then he shrugged. He tilted the box the other way. Then he gently poked the eggy blob in the back. This is a young one, he said softly. A young what? I asked impatiently. The eggs fell all over town, Dr. Gray said, poking the egg creature. Like a meteor shower only on this town. Because,
how convenient.
So it's not actually a science lab, it's his pediatrician. I went to a science lab one time. They gave me
a white coat.
They gave me a shot, and then they had to give me a Band-Aid, but they didn't have any SpongeBob Band-Aids left, so I had to get a stupid Dora the Explorer Band-Aid, and it was so embarrassing.
That's okay.
And it made me cry.
I got a lollipop.
I got a lollipop, and it was all good. Spider-Man sticker. Excuse me? I cried. They fell from the sky? I wanted desperately to understand, but so far nothing made sense. Dr. Dre turned to me and put his hand on my shoulder. We believe that the eggs fell all the way from Mars, Dana. There was a big storm on Mars 2 years ago. It set off something like a meteor shower. The storm sent these eggs hurtling through space. My mouth dropped open. I gazed down at the quivering yellow blob in the shoebox. This This is a Martian, I stammered. Dr. Dre smiled. We think it came from Mars. We think the eggs flew through space for 2 years. Then we found them, mashed them up, and put them inside your immunization because we ran out of the materials to make the immunization the way that the Federal Drug Association permits. You know, we didn't want to get in trouble for having a shortage of flu shots. You understand, women and children's lives were at stake.
So, no repercussions, really.
But, I sputtered, my heart was racing, my hands were suddenly ice cold. Was I really staring at a creature from Mars? Had I actually touched a creature from Mars? Had a creature from Mars actually come out of my no-no place? Then I had an even weirder thought. I found it. I picked it up from my backyard. Well, I picked it.
Yeah.
Did that mean it belonged to me? Did I own a Martian? Did I give birth to a Martian? Dr. Gray bounced the creature. My creature in the box.
Do you really own it? He's very possessive.
Its veins pulsed. Its black eyes stared back at us. We don't know how the eggs made it through the Earth's atmosphere, the scientist continued. You mean they should have burnt up, I asked? He nodded. Most everything burns up when it hits our atmosphere, but the eggs seem to be very tough. So tough, they weren't destroyed.
Wow.
The egg creature made a gurgling sound. It plopped wetly against the side of the shoebox. Dr. Dre chuckled. This is a cute one.
Compared to...
Yeah, you have a lot of others, I asked? Let me show you something, Dana. Holding the box in front of him, Dr. Dre led the way through a large metal door. The door clanged heavily behind us.
Clang.
You were doing sound effects for fucking every other subtle little, like, even things that didn't have a sound effect attached to them. You're sitting there going... And then it's specifically there's a sentence devoted specifically to the sound effect, and you're just like, yeah, and what happened?
Else?
Well, what happened next?
I wasn't sure you'd pause. There's a pause there. So I was like, oh, clang.
I was offering you. You're
Let's
like,
try again.
No, I prefer to do the sound effects when it's over what you're saying.
One more time.
If I can find it again. Thank you. The door clanged heavily behind us.
Clang.
A long, narrow hallway, the walls painted white, led past several small rooms. Dr. Dre's lab coat made a starchy, scratchy sound as he walked. I don't know if they could hear that. Okay, that's a good one.
Perfect.
At the end of the hall, we stopped in front of a wide window. In there, Dr. Dre said softly. I stared into the window. Then I stared harder. Was he crazy? Was he playing some kind of joke on me? I can't see anything at all, I cried.
I can't see anything at all.
Hold on, chapter 15.
Whoa.
Hold on, I forgot something, Dr. Gray said. Dr. Dre, rather. He stepped over to the wall and flicked a light switch.
Oh. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can't see anything at all! Well, that's because all of the lights are out.
See, kids in this book and what was...
Shocker on Shock Street.
Shocker on Shock Street, they have no idea what darkness is.
No
concept
concept
of darkness.
In Shocker on Shock Street, they were on an amusement park ride. They went through a door, and they couldn't see anything. And then it
disappeared.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right. She turned next to her, and her friend had disappeared. Then it turned out that, no, actually, the lights had been off.
So she couldn't see anything.
Which is a far cry from something having disappeared. Again, if suddenly all the power went out right now and we were plunged into darkness, I wouldn't look next to me and think, "You're not there anymore! Where did you go?" I'd be more likely to think maybe I'd gone blind.
Like, what? What happened?
A light above our heads in the hallway flashed on, and now I could see through the window. "Oh, wow!" I exclaimed as my eyes swept over the large room on the other side of the glass. I stared at a crowd of egg creatures, dozens of them, yellow eggy blobs all pulsing and quivering, green veins throbbing. It's like, It's Alive 2.
Yeah.
When they had it's the whole society of the evil babies. Except these are the evil babies born of young men experimenting with themselves.
Yep. This is what happens, kids.
Yeah, okay? Don't touch yourself, otherwise you're gonna have an egg monster crawl out of your Yahoo. Now, Yahoo's... Excuse me. The egg creatures huddled on the white tile floor. They looked like big globs of cookie dough on a baking sheet. Dozens of tiny, round, black eyes stared out at us. Oh man, I could go for some cookie dough right now. I could eat a whole log of cookie
Eggs
dough.
and cookie dough.
Oh, scrambled eggs and cookie dough all mixed together. Unreal! As I stared at them in amazement, I kept thinking that they were like stuffed animals, but they weren't. They were alive. They breathed, they shook and bounced and bubbled. Would you like to go in? Dr. Dre asked. He didn't wait for me to answer. He pulled out a small black control unit from his pocket. Hey, does it have to be a black control unit, okay? Can't we just call it a control unit?
Doesn't matter what color
Just because Dr. Dre's using it doesn't mean that it's automatically a black control unit. He pushed a button and the door swung open. Then he opened the door wider and guided me inside. Oh, whoa! I uttered a cry when I felt a blast of cold air. It's freezing in here, I exclaimed. Dr. Dre smiled. We keep it very cold. It seems to keep them more alert. He held the shoebox in one hand.
Keep them more alert? Wouldn't you want them to be more in stasis mode?
Right.
More dormant? And not more alert?
Yeah, we don't know anything about these scary creatures from Mars, so we make sure to put them in a position where they have the capability of being as active as humanly possible. As active and aggressive as humanly possible. We want them to be of totally sound mind, so if they want to do something and they put their minds to it, well, they can do it.
And they will.
Be it eat their lunch or enslave the human race. I don't know. That's what I'm experimenting right now. I'm a scientist, don't you know? They don't call me Dr. Dre for nothing. He held the shoebox in one hand. He motioned to the egg creatures with the other. Once they hatch, the creatures don't like heat. If the temperature goes too high, they melt. Oh, well, you don't want them melting. He lowered the box to the floor. Oh, we don't want them to melt. Okay, I thought I read that, but actually that was something I said. I could write this shit, Steve.
Boom.
I will ghostwrite for R.L. Stein. If they melt, we can't study them. Leaning over the box, he lifted my egg creature out gently. He placed it beside 3 or 4 other egg creatures. All of the yellow blobs began bouncing excitedly. Dr. Dre picked up the box and stood back up. Stood back up.
Stood back.
He smiled down at the new arrival. We don't want you to melt, do we? He told it. We want you to be nice and alert, so we keep it as cold in here as we can. He reiterated. I shivered and rubbed my arms. I had goosebumps.
Oh, he said it!
The other one said it too, right? Is that it?
He might have like, he might place it somewhere in there.
In every single
Probably just
book.
once,
Because, yeah, Shocker on Shock Street, I think, had that one moment of I had goosebumps.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm interested definitely to read more Goosebumps books just to see if...
So let's see how many times he says it in here.
I mean, it's probably only one. So
Probably.
You don't want to beat children over the head with it.
No.
I'm curious as to when we read, like, Ghosts of Fear Street, if it's going to be like, boy, that sure is a Ghost of Fear Street. Whew! Let's see, he had goosebumps all over his skin. From the excitement or from the cold? I wished I had worn something warmer than a t-shirt. The egg creatures bobbed and bubbled. I couldn't take my eyes off them. Real creatures from Mars. I watched them start to bounce towards us. They moved surprisingly fast. They kind of rolled, kind of inched their way forward. They left slimy yellow trails behind them as they moved. I wanted to ask Dr. Dre a million questions. Do they have brains, I asked? Are they smart? Can they communicate? Have you tried talking to them? Do they talk to each other? How can they breathe how can they breathe our air? If I brought it to the circus, would it understand what a clown was, or an elephant, or a trapeze artist, or
Can you teach them to speak?
Can you teach them to operate a forklift, or any other kind of piece of?
Can they become whatever they want to be?
Machinery. Could one of these be president? He chuckled. You have a good scientific mind, he said. Let's take one question at a time. Which would you like to see me answer first? Well, I started to reply, but I stopped when I realized what the egg creatures had done. While Dr. Dre and I talked, they had all moved quickly into a circle, and now they had the two of us surrounded.
Oh.
I spun around. The egg creatures had moved behind us. They blocked the door, and now they were closing in on us, bubbling and throbbing, leaving a trail of slime as they slid towards us. What were they planning to do? And that's all the time we have for tonight, kids!
There could be no way that they get out. No way.
No, I think they're pretty much dead. There's only 17
He's
more
gonna describe
chapters.
how screwed they are.
So I think it's pretty much just 17 17 chapters describing in very grisly detail how the egg monsters from Mars tear he and Dr. Dre apart. But that's all the time we have for tonight, Steve. Good night.
Good night.